Rabbi Knapp's 7th grade Gemara class, Pesachim Zayin Amud Bet. This is the last segment of our Gemara. The Gemara has already established that the language of the bracha when it comes to Bedikat Chametz is Al Bira Chametz, after having the discussion about using a Lamed or an Al. And now the Gemara goes back, takes a step back to an assumption that was assumed all along. And the Gemara says, Dechuli Alma, starting here with the words Dechuli Alma, that all opinions, Kol HaOlam, Dechuli Alma, Mia Meikara Ba'inan Livruche. Everyone, however, agrees, and Ba'inan everyone requires that the brachot should be said Meikara, before doing the mitzvah. Minalan. Where do we know this from? What's the source? Minalan usually is used to look for a source in the Torah. Here we'll find it's a different source. And the Gemara answers, the Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Rav Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel. Again, that same Rav Yehuda, many of the halachot of Bedikat Chametz are attributed to Rav Yehuda. Here he cites the halacha again in the name of Shmuel. Kol ha-mitzvot, all mitzvot, mivarech aleihen, we make the bracha on them, over la'asiyatan, prior to performing them. And this word over is a little bit of a strange language. Normally one would assume the word to be lifnei. Why did Shmuel choose the word over la'asiyatan? As in the line, kol ha-mitzvot, mivarech aleihen, over la'asiyatan. So the Gemara asks, my mashma, how is it implied Dehai over, that this word over, in Shmuel's line, this word over, lishna dak dumehu, is the language of something coming beforehand, like lifnei. And the Gemara here is going to cite 3 verses that show the word over used in Tanakh for before. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says, the Amar Kra, the verse says, this is in Shmuel Bet, Perek Yudched, Vayaratz Achimatz derech hakikar, Vayavor et hakushi. The Achimatz ran the way of the valley, and he passed in front of the Ethiopian. And the context of that story is, the battle has been won, Avshalom, David HaMelech's son, has been killed, and there's a race, if you will, back to David HaMelech to share this news with him. And the pasuk says, Vaya'avor et hakushi, Achimatz runs and passes in front of the Ethiopian to tell David HaMelech this news. Why exactly they're running is a whole discussion there in Shmuel Bet, whether or not David HaMelech is happy to hear this news. The war has been won, the battle's over, the leader of the rebellion has died. The problem is the leader of the rebellion is Avshalom, his son. So that's the first example. Abaye Amar Mehacha. Abaye says from here, another verse, V'hu avar lifneihem, he passed in front of them, referring to Bereishit Perek Lamed Gimel. Yaakov Avinu, preparing for battle against Esav, sets up his family, and he himself passes in front of all of his family members en route to seeing Esav. V'hu avar lifneihem, v'i ba'is ema, and v'i ba'it ema. And if you want, I can say Mehacha, the third and final answer. Vaya'avor malcham lifneihem, v'Hashem birosham. The pasuk from Sefer Micha describing what's going to be at the end of days says, in the times of Mashiach, their king will pass before them with Hashem at their head. So 3 examples teaching us that the language of avar is used for beforehand. And in these cases, it's interesting to note, avar, say the Mefarshim, the language of over really means right beforehand. Meaning when I do a bracha before a mitzvah, I should do it right before doing the mitzvah. I should have everything prepared beforehand, say the bracha, and then immediately after do the mitzvah. As opposed to the language of lifnei. If the Gemara simply said, do a bracha before lifnei, doing a mitzvah, it would not be clear how far in advance it should be done. In the last part of the Gemara, here the Gemara explains that there are some exceptions to the rule. Even though generally speaking we make bracha before doing mitzvot, here is an exception. Beirav Amri, good word. Beirav, the Beit Midrash of Rav. Rav was a colleague of Shmuel. Rav Yehuda said the previous halacha in the name of Shmuel. Here, a halacha came out of Rav's Beit Midrash. They said, Chutz mina tefillah v'shofar. There are two exceptions. When it comes to the mitzvah of tefillah, of dipping in the mikvah, and of blowing shofar, in these cases, the Gemara initially says these are two exceptions where the bracha should be made afterwards. The Gemara explains, Bishlama, the shalom, it is good, it makes sense. Tefillah, that dipping in the mikvah, we make the bracha afterwards. The akate, because beforehand, gavra lo chazi, the individual, the gibor, the man was not yet fit to make the bracha. Let's take the easiest example. Before going to the mikvah, let's say a person who wants to become Jewish, a ger, a convert, part of the process of becoming Jewish is going to the mikvah. So before going to the mikvah, he's not yet Jewish. And he can't say the bracha. Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, that Hashem commanded us. He's not yet Jewish. He wasn't commanded. Only upon going to the mikvah could he then say the bracha afterwards. And it's a big discussion whether this is true for all types of dipping in the mikvah or just for specific examples. Ella, however, says the Gemara, shofar my taima. Why shouldn't one make the bracha on shofar beforehand? The Gemara suggests an answer. V'chi tema, and if you want to say mishum because dilma mekalkala tikia, perhaps he will ruin the sound of the shofar blast. He won't be able to sound the blast properly, meaning he'll make the bracha, he'll get ready to blow the shofar, and he won't be able to do so. In which case it will be a bracha levatala. Maybe that's the reason when it comes to shofar, he should make the bracha afterwards. Says the Gemara, that's not true. Ihachi, if so, imkain. Ihachi, if so, afilu shchita umila nami. Then even in the other examples we brought up, slaughtering and brit milah, also we would have the same concern, and maybe there too one should make the bracha afterwards. And yet we know that's not the halacha. We make the bracha beforehand, even though there's a risk that the mitzvah may not be fulfilled. So the Gemara refines its statement. Ella Amar Rav Chisda answers, Chutz mina tefillah bilvad. The only exception to the rule is dipping in the mikveh. Itmar, it was said, Chutz mina tefillah bilvad itmar. It was only said one exception, that exception being dipping in the mikveh. Tanya nami hachi, it was also taught in the Braita this way. Tavel vi Allah, he dips in the mikveh, gets out of the mikveh, ba'aliyato, in getting out of the mikveh, omer, baruch asher kiddushanu v'tzivanu al hatfilah, and then he makes the bracha. So we see here too, another proof that going to the mikveh requires a bracha only afterwards upon leaving the mikveh. I hope this serves as a good review for you and a way to practice reading and translating the Gemara. Thank you.